welcome back to Inside Number 23, my podcast which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the most crafty life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me pretty much everywhere on social media as Miss Lavelli, although I'm most active on Instagram. We also have a Ravelry group for the podcast where you can get involved in giveaways and knit-alongs and all of that good stuff. And I'm coming to you as always from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London in the UK, where I live with my husband Emrys, our little pug puppy Rolly, and I'm just really excited to be back with you again this week for what really feels like our first proper episode of 2018, because last week was kind of looking back over 2017, and so this is really the first new episode of the new year, and I'm a little bit kind of overwhelmed that we're in 2018. I'm very excited to be at the start of a new year. I know that there are some people who don't really get overexcited at the beginning of a new year, because I get it. If you want to change your habits and that type of thing, it's kind of silly that just a new month means that suddenly everything's going to be different. But I do really like that kind of fresh new feeling, and that's kind of how I've been feeling the last couple of weeks. But like I said, it's really amazing to be back with you again. I'm so happy to be here and having a little chat and a little catch up. And look, we are back in our podcasting area. I vacated this area just for a little bit recently for the last few episodes, because this room was just in such a state of disrepair and I wanted to do a major overhaul of the stash, which I have now done, and I am super happy with it. So I actually am much more gravitating towards this space than I was before, so I feel really happy to be back in our little podcasting corner, and I hope that you're happy to be back with me too. If you want to get in touch with me about anything regarding the podcast, please do drop me an email. I don't actually answer messages on other platforms, so if you message me on Ravelry or Instagram or that type of thing, the likelihood is that I won't get back to you, but please do drop me an email for the podcast. It is katie@insidenumber23.com, and I am implementing an email system which hopefully means that I'm going to be much more on top of emails than I ever have been before. So thank you for your patience if you have emailed me, and yeah, please feel free to drop me a line if you want any information or want to get in touch with me about anything regarding the podcast. I want to start off this week's episode with a little bit of podcast admin. What better way to start the new year than with a little bit of administrative type bits and pieces? First of all, I want to say a little apology to everybody who's been getting involved with the Harry Potter KAL. I was incredibly late with opening a thread in the Ravelry group for the grand prize drawing for the Harry Potter KAL. That is now open. Thank you so much to everybody who's very patient with me in getting that open. But because I was a little bit late in having that thread available for you all, it is going to be open until the end of January. So those of you who have missed out on the Harry Potter KAL last year, I had a year-long knit-along that was all themed Harry Potter. That's terrible grammar. The theme was Harry Potter, and at the end of each month I would draw a prize for whatever randomly drawn finished object was knit at that time, and it was amazing, and so many of you got involved, and it was just a really incredible experience. That knit along has now come to an end. It basically finished at the end of 2017, but I do have a grand prize drawing for anybody who knit 6 or more Harry Potter themed finished objects throughout 2017. There is a thread open for you now to post your finished objects in there, and the only thing that I would request is that for ease of prize drawing, if you could put all of your finished objects into one post rather than just posting them one after the other, that would be fabulous, because it's going to make it so much easier for me to draw prizes. But yes, thank you to everybody who got involved with the Harry Potter KAL, people who took part, everybody who donated prizes. It was just amazing, and obviously, as always, your support is so appreciated and you're just all marvellous and amazing. But excitingly, I do actually have one winner to announce this week. Like I said, with the grand prize drawing, I'm going to leave it till the end of this month to draw, because I want to make sure that you all have time to get your finished objects together and post them. But for December, I closed the finished object thread this morning and drew a winner at random, and that winner was post number 17. And forgive me, but I believe your name is pronounced Waylin, and I'm just really excited that you won because I absolutely adored your finished object. It was beautiful. It was an absolutely stunning pair of socks, and huge congratulations. Your prize, which will be winging its way to you, is something very lovely and special. I've been keeping this to one side because I just loved seeing it, but then I realised that, you know, that was a little bit selfish and I should really send it out to a prize winner. So basically, this gorgeous skein of beehive yarns in Atomic Flamingo. It's on a merino nylon base, and it comes with this gorgeous little contrasting skein for heels, cuffs and toes. And as your finished object was a beautiful pair of socks with contrasting heels and toes, I think that this will be right up your alley. But I'm also going to be including from Goosey Fibres this beautiful skein, which is in the Newt colourway, because these were all sitting next to each other in my prize bucket and they just look so happy together as a little collection. I felt that it was worthwhile popping that in too. So Waylin, again, apologies if I am mispronouncing your name, but if you could drop me an email as soon as possible, I will pop these in the post to you and they will be winging their way to you. So thank you so much and congratulations. Now, in terms of the grand prize drawing, I do have some very special bits and pieces to share with you in terms of what is up for grabs. For anyone who's not interested in seeing what the prizes are, I do timestamp all of the different segments of the podcast in my show notes, which you can find in the down bar just down below. So if you would rather skip, what I'll do is I'll put a little time on the screen as well, just for your convenience, so you can skip to the next bit where we get on to all of the knitting-y, sewing-y goodness and that type of thing. But for now, I am going to show you a couple of bits and pieces that are available for the grand prize drawing, because I got really excited when I started putting these prize packages together earlier today, and I just really want to share them with you. So I decided to put together a selection of lovely bits and pieces from the prize bucket, which is actually more of a prize trolley because it is heaving with gorgeous stuff that has been sent to me by wonderful individuals. But I actually have 3 different grand prizes to be won at the end of this month. The first one includes this beautiful project bag, which is by Molly Klein Designs, with these lovely teapots on it. Thank you so much, Molly, for this. This has been sitting in the prize bucket for a very long time, and it just goes perfectly with the other bits that I have chosen. It also has this beautiful skein of yarn by Dragon Horde Yarn, and this colourway is the Molly Weasley colourway. And this bag just felt like something that Molly Weasley would have, so that feels very appropriate. And also, it comes with this stunning collection of mini skeins. These are Harry Potter themed mini skeins. These were dyed by Audrey Borrego, and these are all on natural rustic pure wool, and they are stunning. I just think these would be incredible for colour work or like a pair of mittens or something like that, but they are stunning. So that is prize number 1 that is available for the grand prize drawing. Prize number 2 also has a beautiful project bag. This stunning stag project bag was sent to me by Jessie Marie Makes. It is absolutely beautiful, and I am also including this skein of the Half-Blood prints, which was sent to me by the Woollen Homestead. So lucky you, you could be getting a skein of your own. And also another Goosey Fibres yarn, which is Always, which is of course a kind of Lily Snape themed colourway. So this is collection number 2 for the grand prize drawing. Final set of prizes is just, it's just scrumptious. First of all, you could be getting your hands on this beautiful project bag from Harriet's House. Harriet's House bags are stunning. She makes them out of a selection of Liberty of London fabrics, and this is just, oh, it's beautiful. It also has this little D-ring, so you can attach things like progress keepers to the bag, which I love. It's beautiful. But along with that, you could also stand the chance of winning this skein of yarn from, let me just check that I'm getting the name of this right, Yarn Cafe Creations. This is the Selkie colourway, and it's on the fluffy sock base. It's beautiful merino nylon squishy goodness. And along with that, something from my own personal collection that I thought deserved to be sent out to one of you lucky guys. This is one of the Homespun House Harry Potter Club colourways. This is Hogwarts: A History, and it's on her Genis singles base. It is beautiful, all of these hot pinks and purples. So that is grand prize number 3. So yes, please do get all of your entries in for the grand prize drawing for the Harry Potter cowl. This will be my last cowl for a little while. I do want to kind of recuperate and make a plan for some cowls for the rest of the year. There will definitely be some fun things, possibly garment related, because that does tend to be where my heart is. Possibly another Andi Satt-along. How would you guys feel about that? Because I really enjoyed that last year, and checking through all of my what we got up to last year on the podcast for last week's episode, I'd forgotten all about the Andi Satt-along, but it might be time to reawaken that. What do you guys think? If it's something that you want to do, let me know, and possibly we could get that going from February onwards. But yes, very excited about completing the Harry Potter cowl. It's so near and dear to my heart, and just thank you all for getting involved. And yes, I cannot wait to draw for those prizes, to get those entries in. Before I crack on with the real content of the podcast, what you guys are here for, all of the creative goodness, I did want to have a quick chat about some changes that I'm going to be implementing with the podcast. I know, it's very exciting. Changes are afoot. I've fallen very much prey to the thing of new year, let's kind of do an overhaul on everything, hence cleaning out my sewing room and going through every aspect of my life pretty much, and the podcast is no different. I have some really fun, exciting things planned in terms of additional footage. I do really want to try and give you guys more content on a regular basis. I've been very inspired by previous vlogging series that I've done, my 30 before 30 series, doing Vlogmas, previously doing Vlogtober, that I really want to do some kind of smaller videos between podcasts. And what that does mean is that I'm going to give the podcast a little bit of a makeover, a bit of a zhuzh, if you like. It's not all going to happen at once, don't worry, I'm not going to completely overwhelm you, but bit by bit you will start to notice that things do change a little bit, be it the format, be it the editing, be it some of the technical bits and pieces, whatever. But one big change that I am implementing from this week, and I hope you guys aren't too disappointed, but my general waffle segment, which I've included at the end of pretty much every podcast, is gonna be saying goodbye. I know, it's sad, it is sad, and I'm sad to let it go because it's been a little running joke between me and you guys for pretty much as long as the podcast has been around. But one thing that I've realised is if I want to include additional content in other videos, a lot of the things that will be moving into other videos outside of the podcast will be things that were usually included in the general waffle segment. It doesn't mean that it's going to be going away forever and ever and ever and ever. If I do feel the need to add a little bit of chatting at the end of the podcast, then it will definitely always be our general waffle segment, but it's not going to be happening every single week. And the likelihood is that anything that I would have included there will be moving into additional videos. That is the plan. It may all go completely wrong and General Waffle might return. I like to be flexible and not too regimented about, no, it's never coming back at all. But in case you were wondering, that is why from this week there probably isn't going to be a General Waffle segment. So please forgive me, but it's all about just keeping things fresh and interesting and moving forward with this podcast, and seeing it grow and continue, which hopefully that's something that all of you guys want just as much as I do, so yay! One more thing, actually, I told a lie, one more thing before we get started. This weekend was Vogue Knitting Live, and this time last year I was in New York for Vogue Knitting Live and it was amazing. So I really hope everybody who is at Vogue Knitting Live has the most wonderful time. Thank you for everybody who's been posting on Instagram, because although it's making me green with jealousy, it's really lovely to feel involved and be there with you even though I can't. But I hope you all have a marvellous time. And yeah, I'm sending you so much love. It was an amazing show when I went, and I'm sure that you're all having the best time, so yay! Enough waffling on. See, even without a general waffle, I managed to just waffle on and on and on about random bits and pieces. I think we should crack on with a bit of yarny content, don't you? Okay, on the yarny front, I've actually been getting quite a lot of work done. Towards the end of last year, I was feeling very like I was hitting a kind of brick wall. The Yarny Mojo had pretty much left the building, and then I started kind of frogging projects and doing all of that, and I felt incredibly inspired. So I have continued that feeling into the new year, and I've really hit the ground running. I actually have a couple of finished objects to share with you this week, which is incredibly exciting. You know, let's start the year off as we mean to continue. So I'm going to share those with you first. The first finished object is actually something that I have shown to you in bits, but not in its completed state. And that is, of course, my Christmas jumper. Hooray! So I knit this jumper just in time for Christmas last year, on a bit of a whim. It was a bit nuts that I managed to knit it in the time that I did, but I absolutely love this, and it still smells amazing from the wool wash that I used to block it with. But I wanted to show it to you in its completed form, because when I last shared it with you, I hadn't decorated my little Christmas tree. I'm not even sure if I had blocked it. Besides the point, this is a pattern by the incredible Andi Satterlund, whom I love. As you'll know, me mentioning the Andi Satt-along earlier. But this is a Julgran sweater, and it's knit out of Quince and Co Lark, one of my favourite yarns of all time, which is in the Parsley colour, which is this incredible, gorgeous green. I really, really love it. It knit up in what felt like a second. It flew by in terms of knitting it up, and I of course decided that I needed to decorate my Christmas tree in as kitsch a fashion as is physically possible. So everything that's on this tree is actually bits and pieces that I had in my stash anyway. The little star on the top of the tree was actually a vintage earring, which I bent the back of, so it's nice. It basically sits flat with the rest of the spokes. I hooked that through the sweater, and then I sewed the little spokes of the star onto the sweater, so that is not going anywhere. Obviously this is only going to be hand washed, considering the amount of bits that are hanging off it, but I always hand wash my knits anyway, because I'm just that kind of girl. But the rest of the beads were all in my stash already. The faux kind of pearl beads were rescued from an old vintage necklace that fell apart, and I just repurposed the beads. And the others, the red and the black, are just plastic beads. I think I probably got them from Hobbycraft years ago, but they've been in my stash for donkey's years. So to release them and have them be a part of something so festive and lovely was a real treat. I love this sweater. I love the way it fits. I love how quick it was to knit up. I absolutely love the neckline. It's still irritating me because I blocked it out a little bit peculiarly, and it's got this kind of kink in it. You can see from where it dried when I was blocking it. But that will be resolved by reblocking. I'm debating whether or not to leave it for a reblock until next Christmas, because obviously it's going to go in a drawer and it's probably going to get squashed over the next 11 months before it sees the light of day again. But if you are wanting to knit a Christmas jumper that can either be incredibly over the top and kitschy if you decorate it, or can be a lot more subtle if you just leave it with a naked tree, I can only recommend this pattern. Like every other Andi Satterlund pattern that I've knitted, I just love her designs, and her style really suits me. I think it goes with my aesthetic quite nicely, which is nice. One thing I would say, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that they wouldn't want to knit this because it's entirely purl stitches, and then the tree is obviously the knit stitches. What I would say to anybody who's worried about that is, believe me, it knits up so quickly you're not even going to notice that it's entirely purl stitches. It flew off the needles, and if that's the only thing that's stopping you from knitting it, I would not let that be a barrier, unless you are 100% physically repulsed by purl stitches, which I can't imagine that any knitter really is. I mean, maybe some people are, but I wouldn't let that be the thing that stops you from knitting it. It's glorious, I love it, and yay! Away it goes into storage until next Christmas, which is a long way away now. Now, I actually have one more finished object to share with you, my first knitted finished object for 2018, and I could not be more thrilled with it. It is so amazing. I found out about this pattern on Instagram quite a while ago now, I think. It is a pattern by the Sweater Collective, whom I think is an incredible designer, and it's knit out of some of my now most favourite yarn, which I actually asked for as a Christmas present because I knew that I would want to knit this up pretty much straight away after Christmas. And yeah, let me just share it with you. Ta-da! This is not showing up as it should do. There we go. You can kind of see the pattern on it. This is the Eureka cowl. It is an incredible... I just think it's so clever. Look at how clever it is. Basically, the concept behind this cowl is that so many of us really enjoy wearing triangular shawls, or a lot of shawls in the kind of bandana style with the point at the front, and they can be incredibly difficult to style, and sometimes they can fall off and just be a bit of an inconvenience. And this incredible pattern was designed so that you get the effect of wearing a triangular shawl around your neck. You can see when it's split in half, it has that triangular dip at the front, but it's a cowl, so you're never going to be at risk of it falling off. So I'm just going to pop it on so you can kind of see it in action. Here it is, the triangularness of it. And the pattern is so cute. Can you see that we've got all these little bubbles on it and these lines of garter? It's so fun, and it was a real pleasure to knit. It knit up in absolutely no time at all, and literally that is just me popping it over my head, and I just think it already looks really cute. It is knit up out of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, and you purchase 2 skeins of yarn. I did not use 2 skeins. I think I probably used about 1.5 skeins of yarn for this, but this colourway is in the Woollen Socks colourway, which I love. It's this beautiful kind of reddy chestnut brown with little speckles of bright red and yellow and white in it, and I have worn this an awful lot since I finished it. This kind of saved me at the beginning of this year, because you may or may not remember that I was talking about casting on another cowl, a colourwork cowl for my Christmas Eve cast on. And I did cast that on Christmas Eve, but I was so frustrated with it. It wasn't the right project to use as a Christmas Eve cast on, as it turns out. And within a couple of days of working on it, I ripped it out. So this project, I wound the yarn by hand whilst sitting at my parents' house over Christmas. And I cast this on pretty much as soon as I got back home from Christmas. And it knit up in less than 48 hours. It was a dream, and I love it. It's a really, really lovely use of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. I know that for some people Brooklyn Tweed can be a little bit pricey, particularly if you live in the UK, so this is a really nice project to kind of get you started using that yarn, because you only need the 2 skeins of it, which even in the UK, paying things like import and all of that is not going to break the bank, and it is such a lovely, snuggly, gorgeous thing to wear. My one thing that I would change about this pattern if I were to knit it again is what you can probably see is I have quite a bit of my neck exposed when I wear this cowl, and I do like to wear things that are kind of bundled all the way up to the neck. So I think if I were to knit this again, I would just find a way to have the ribbing along the top be slightly longer, just so that I could have it all the way up to my neck. I mean, there's probably a way to knit it so that it's a little bit tighter, so that it sits a little bit higher up. I could pop a couple of stitches in the back just to kind of close up this gap a little bit, because I don't want it to be too gapey. Possibly do some decreases if I were to knit another one towards the back. But that is literally the only thing that I would say is at all problematic with this, and that's just personal preference, because I like to be bundled right up to the neck when I wear things. But yeah, it's a really, really lovely project. Very, very quick and satisfying, and ultimately one of the most wearable accessories that I have made in a long time. It's just glorious. I love it so much, and I'm very happy to have already completed one project for 2018 and have it off the needles, so yay! I know some of you are thinking, gosh, she hasn't stopped frogging projects. She's still going with frogging projects. You should wait till a little bit later in the episode because some other things may have been frogged. Spoiler alert. In terms of works in progress for my knitting, I have been cracking on with tackling my #Make9 collection. I have selected 9 different knitting patterns and 9 different sewing patterns or projects for 2018, and I was at first a little bit concerned that it would stop me feeling like I could cast on other things, but so far it's just been really, really inspiring to make me pick up my needles and get some projects on the go. Mostly because I think I already had all of the supplies for the projects that I picked, some of which I've had the supplies for a very, very long time. So to get those things out of my stash and into the world as objects is just incredibly satisfying. So the first work in progress that I have is very much garment central here at the moment, is in my my Bee Movie project bag. I love this project bag. I actually have some more fabric that's kind of Bee Movie-esque. It's not exactly the same as this, but I'm very tempted to make myself another project bag because I use this every single day. It is my row cardigan. Now I had started this previously. I shared this with you at the end of last year, but I'd got kind of stuck on the rib. There was a lot of rib at the bottom of this cardigan. The pattern is by Michelle Wong, and like so many of Michelle's beautiful projects, it is very, very heavily cabled, and I was getting really annoyed with the amount of rib that I had to knit because I just wanted to get onto the cables. And very excitingly, I have put some serious work in on this cardigan, and if I can just share it with you, look at it! Look at those cables! Oh my goodness, isn't it just amazing? So this is knit out of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, again with the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, which I was lucky enough to be given a sweater's quantity of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter for my birthday from my lovely mum and dad. This is in the Truffle Hunt colourway, which always makes me think of Truffle Shuffle from, you know, the Goonies. If you haven't seen the Goonies, you really, really should. But it's this beautiful kind of grey brown with flecks of blue in it. It's a really multi-dimensional colour and it's gorgeous. And now that I am onto the cables, I am so happy with how this is coming out. It's just glorious. Look at it. Here's a bit of a close-up to see all of the cabley goodness. I think I have about 3 or 4 different charts for this project, so it's quite intense, but I love it. I've also popped onto here my little pal. This is one of my Jiggles and Beans progress keepers. Emrys gave me this for my birthday. It's a little pumpkin and I love it. It makes me incredibly happy. And yeah, I must admit this has taken a bit of a backseat to my other work in progress just because it's become very brainless, that one, so it's good for TV knitting, but I love how this is turning out and I can't wait to have this as a finished object. I really, really hope to get it finished relatively quickly because there are some Yarny events up and coming that I would love to have this to be able to wear too, but I'm in no rush. I know that this is going to be a long distance run rather than a sprint, and I'm just enjoying every minute of it. I know that a lot of people are a bit mixed in their opinions of Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. It is, I think, and I'm probably going to get this completely wrong, is it Woollen spun? I can never remember the technical terms for how yarn is put together. I'm a terrible knitter in that respect, but basically the way that this is put together, it feels like no yarn that I have ever used before, and that is both a plus and a minus from some people's perspective. It's a plus because it's so unique that once you kind of really enjoy using it, you don't want to use anything else for a pattern that is designed for Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. But it also means that when you're using it, it behaves very differently from the majority of other worsted weight yarns. And the one problem that a lot of people have is when you are kind of pulling the yarn at all, it can just come apart in your fingers. It completely just comes apart. When it's knitted into a garment, it doesn't have that problem. I honestly don't think that I'm going to be putting my fingers through my knitting, or at least, my goodness, I hope that that's not going to happen. But I was a little intimidated, I think, using Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, and that's why the Eureka Cowl was such a treat to knit, because again, it was a much smaller project using Shelter, one that just made me so happy throughout the entire process, and I love the finished object. So it took the fear away from using the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter for a much larger project, and now I can't get enough of it. I love Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. My final work in progress for my knitting this week is a new cast on for the new year, and I am super excited about it. I actually cast it on just a week ago while spending time with some friends after a lovely knitty get together. I swatched for it that evening. We were having lots of long conversations and sipping Prosecco, so I wasn't really in the right frame of mind to focus on anything more than a swatch. But this is all of the work that I have done over the past 5 days really since I cast on, so just to get you to understand how quickly this has grown. This project I am knitting on for the Commercial Yarn Along, my goodness, Commercial Yarn Along, which is being hosted by my friend Amy of Stranded Dyeworks and the Stranded podcast, which the idea is to use commercial bought yarn and knit something with it. It's as simple as that. And I bought a fair quantity of knit picks in the Wool of the Andes Tweed, and the yarn that I purchased that I decided to cast on with was this beautiful colour. This is, I believe, called Heathered Autumn. It's this really lovely chestnutty brown. You can kind of tell my brain's been in a similar place, like palette wise recently. I'm very into my autumnal tones anyway, but this just really spoke to me. It's the tweed base as well, like I said, so it has all of these lovely little neps and flecks in it. And I cast on the Forest cardigan, which is again, like the Row cardigan, one of my Make 9 for 2018. And yeah, let me just show you how much I've done, because now just looking at it, I'm a little bit overwhelmed at how much I've managed to do. But 5 days! 5 days of knitting, you guys. So the Forest cardigan is a beautiful oversized cardigan with lovely detailing down the sleeves. It has this incredible cable pattern that goes down the sleeves. It will also have pockets, and that cable detailing will also be on the pockets. But look at that. Is that not amazing? And one of the reasons that this has grown so quickly, I mean, a couple of reasons. Number one, it's worsted weight yarn, and worsted weight yarn is just a dream for garments. It really is, because they just grow like nobody's business. But also, the majority of this cardigan, I don't know whether you can tell, but it's knit in garter stitch. Is that not just everything that anyone would ever want? It's knit in garter stitch, so you literally just knit and knit and knit and knit, and it is a dream. I would say for anyone who is starting off with a garment, I would say it's a little bit large for someone who it's their first garment ever. It might be a bit intimidating, but for maybe someone who's got 1 or 2 garments under their needles, under their needle belt, and wants to try something a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more oversized, this pattern is incredible. I love it. So what I did to start off with is you do start with kind of the yoke. It's knit from the top down, and then you separate for the sleeves. No, you don't separate for the sleeves. I can't word what I did properly. Words gone. No more words for me. You work from the top down, backwards and forwards, but when you get to the underarms, you obviously put these stitches for the arms on, oh my goodness, stitch holders. I don't know what's wrong with my brain today, but stitch holders. You put the arms on stitch holders, you cast on a few stitches for the underarms, and then you knit down. And what I did was I took a leaf out of the Knit More Girls book, because they always talk about when they're knitting garments how knitting the sleeves last is a real pain for top-down sweaters, because obviously by the time you get to the sleeves, you've knit so much on the body is so huge that you're maneuvering this massive piece of fabric around in order to knit the sleeves. So I am usually the type of person who sticks to a pattern 100% in the order of which it tells you to knit things, but I went rogue and I knit to just below the armhole, and then I knit one of the sleeves in its entirety. But then instead of casting on the next sleeve, I went back and started knitting on the body, because it was just so much fun just knitting backwards and forwards in front of Netflix. And I love this fabric. Look at how amazing this is. I am so happy that I decided to use this this tweed base yarn for this cardigan, because the texture that the tweed has given along with the garter stitch, it's just divine. I love it so much, and I'm really glad that this is flying off the needles, because I cannot wait to have this in regular rotation in my wardrobe. One of my big focuses for this year is really making things that work within the wardrobe that I have, and I know that this will go so well with masses of things that I've already made, so it's making me very, very happy. I also have a Jiggles and Beans progress keeper on this. This is a new addition to my Jiggles and Beans collection. It's a little donut. It's so cute. Honestly, she is my favourite, I think, for producing little progress keepers. I love them, but you can just see how quickly that this knit up. I mean, I replaced that progress keeper earlier today, and that's what I've done in a few hours of knitting. I mean, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? So yeah, I am flying through some of my larger projects for the year. I know that some people thought I might have been overstretching a little bit with my Make 9 goals for knitting, but if I carry on the way that I've started, although I never really seem to do that in terms of my projects, but if I do, I think I'm gonna do relatively well, I think, in terms of knitting everything that I want. But this is gonna be glorious, and I can't wait to have it and snuggle in it and wear it all day long. And yeah, I just adore it. Very, very much recommend it as a process knit, and hopefully just as much I'll recommend it as a product knit when it's finished, because I think it's going to be amazing. I love how the garter stitch as well is adding an additional kind of snuggliness and thickness to the fabric, which you wouldn't get with stockinette. So it's very, very well designed, and I just love it. So yay, commercial yarn along. All good. I do have a few stash enhancements this week, and I know that I've been banging on about wanting to knit out of my stash and having all of the yarn and everything ready to knit these projects and sew these projects that I've had put aside for my Make 9 video, but sometimes I think you just need to treat yourself. And a lot of these treats that I have purchased recently were either in the sale, were kind of Christmas gifts, or were things that I needed to complete other projects. So, you know, I'm not apologising for any of them. I'm just thinking, in case you think I'm being hypocritical by saying, oh, I've got all this stuff in my stash and I feel so holier than thou, which I totally don't. But yeah, I'm gonna stop blabbering and I'm gonna get on with sharing some of my stash enhancements. For my Christmas gift this year from my brother, he was kind enough to buy me a voucher to Wild and Woolly, which is a knitting shop in London. I've only been to Wild and Woolly once previously. It was during Vlogmas, so in December. I actually went to a knit night at Wild and Woolly, and it was an utter delight, and I loved my time there and meeting everybody. Everybody was so warm and welcoming that I knew that I wanted to make another trip back in the new year, preferably though during the day, so that I could really focus on the yarn and make some purchases. And so I asked for the voucher from my brother specifically so that I could go back and just indulge a little bit. And I managed to pick up a couple of skeins of yarn, which I have behind me in the stash. Now the yarn that I purchased was for a very specific purpose, and that is because one of my Make 9 projects, which is really a bit naughty because it's not one project, it's multiple projects, but it is knitting the mittens from the Selby Mitten Club, which was designed by my lovely friend Ellie of Skein Deer Knits. I love those patterns, and I wanted to get some yarn specifically for being able to knit up her mitten collection, because I want to get back into colour work, and I think that that's going to be the best way to do it, is starting with someone who has created an incredible set of patterns that can help me through the process. Now, I ended up picking up some incredible yarn from Wild and Woolly, 2 different pairs of yarn to make mittens with. And the first they're all from the same brand, they're all Navia yarn in the DK weight. And first of all, I got these colours. Now, I know that high contrast is best for colour work, so using a more natural tone, a paler tone with a much darker tone in terms of showing up colour work is best. But Ellie herself, I think, has knit a pair of her Selby mittens in burgundy and grey, and they just made my heart so happy that I couldn't put these colours down. When I picked them up, I just knew that these had to come home with me. I love burgundies and deep reds anyway. It's probably the colour that I gravitate towards more than any other colour. And I mean, autumn tones in general. Who am I kidding? I'm just an autumn tones girl, but to pair that with the grey is not something that I would have ever thought of. So when I saw that Ellie had done this, I was so inspired and I had to get these colours. So these most likely I think will be the actual original Selby mittens, the easiest of all of the patterns, and I just think they're going to be amazing and I can't wait. I also picked up another colour combination that really spoke to me, which was the kind of natural pure wool, so the very, very pale colour. But along with that, I also picked up this beautiful kind of taupey brown. I just love how these two look together. Again, it's very different, I think, from other colorways that I've seen with Selby mittens before, and colourwork mittens. I think I've seen a lot of red and white and navy blue and white, and although those look beautiful, these colours just really, really spoke to me again. I thought that they looked gorgeous, and I think as a little collection, they all look really nice together. Yeah, they make me very, very happy. And this will be my first time ever using Navia yarn. I've heard very, very good things about it. This is the trio, by the way, which is the DK. And I just think that they're really cute. Can't wait to start these. I am going to hopefully finish up some more projects before I cast on any mittens, because I want to make sure I don't have 100 languishing whips this year. But when I do get those cast on, I hope, fingers crossed, that they'll be a real success, because I just love that yarn. I have a couple of other things that I've picked up recently. I remember saying this last year. Oh goodness, yarn is just attacking me. I remember saying this in one of my videos at the beginning of last year, and that is the only sale that I really get excited about and indulge in every single year in January, you know, sale season, is the John Lewis haberdashery sale. I love the John Lewis haberdashery sale, mostly because there is a John Lewis within walking distance of my house. It's a department store in the UK, in case you don't know what John Lewis is, but they have a really, really lovely selection of yarns and fabrics, particularly now that knitting and sewing is seen to be more mainstream and that more people are getting back into it. They do usually have a really lovely selection of bits and pieces, not hugely specialized, but they have a nice selection and a lot better than they have for quite a few years. And whenever they have a sale in January, they tend to slash the prices on their fabric by 50% over a huge selection of fabrics. So I always like to go and make a couple of cheeky purchases as a little gift to myself at the beginning of the year. Because you can pick up some really lovely deals on fabric that might have otherwise been too expensive, because they are a little bit of the high end of pricing for a lot of things. You can tend to get similar things elsewhere more inexpensively. But I picked up 2 different types of fabric this year and I love both of them. The first one is kind of silly, but I gravitated towards it as soon as I saw the sale section. I picked it up and I couldn't put it down, and I realised that that meant that it had to come home with me. This time last year, I purchased the ridiculous kitty cat print that I made into a dress for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So apparently I can't let the January sale at John Lewis go by without purchasing a bit of a kitschy print, because look at these pineapples! Aren't they cute? So this is a beautiful navy cotton, but it's been printed with all of these really, really lovely silver pineapples. Some of the pineapples, like this one, are entirely solid. I at first thought that that was like a misprint, but they are actually throughout the pattern. Occasionally there's a little solid pineapple, so they are a part of the pattern, but the others are all little delicate pineapples. And I love this. I have quite a few blouse patterns that I think would look adorable in this print. And I picked up a couple of meters of this. It was 50% off. It's lovely and soft, and I just think it would look really, really cute. I don't have many things that are navy. For me, this is actually relatively subtle in terms of print, so I don't think it's a heavy enough weight really for a dress, but I'm getting much more into separates, so I think this will probably end up being a blouse of some kind, or a couple of different blouses. The other fabric that I purchased is something that I've been wanting for quite a long time. One of the different things that I have picked out for my Make 9 sewing edition is the Rosa dress by Tilly and the Buttons. I've really, really liked this shirt dress for quite a long time, and I have some beautiful plaid fabric that I do have earmarked for a Rosa dress. But the other version that I wanted to make was a chambray, because I wanted something that was a little bit fresher and more lightweight for kind of spring autumn time. And John Lewis was selling chambray, this beautiful lovely blue. It's kind of between navy and royal blue. It's gorgeous, and I just thought this would look stunning as a Rosa dress with contrast top stitching. Top stitching is something that I've been getting very, very into at the moment. I just think this will make a beautiful Rosa dress. It will be very classic and quite simple, so I can pair it with lots of my more outrageous knitwear pieces, and it's exactly what I wanted. And again, it was 50% off. It's really, really high quality, and I couldn't be happier with it. So those were my two John Lewis purchases, of which I am very, very happy and satisfied. I have one more stash enhancement, and this is where my frogging story is going to come in. For those of you who may have missed some of my episodes last year, I did go on a bit of a frogging kick. I ripped back a lot of different projects and repurposed the yarn for different things, and I am so happy that I did that for every single project that I ripped back, because the finished objects that I have created from the ripped out yarn and the other works in progress that I've been working on from the yarn that I repurposed are making me so much happier than the projects that the yarn was originally designed for. So ripping back is not necessarily a bad thing, guys. It can be a very, very good thing. But I did it again this week. I had a massive sort out, as I've been saying, and I moved a lot of projects around, and I realised that I needed to use a cable that was in a current knitting project. I wanted a longer cable for my interchangeable higher sharps, but all of those cables were being occupied by projects. I wanted to cast on my forest cardigan, which you can see has grown ridiculously over the past week, and there was no way that I wasn't going to cast on that project. And I saw that there was a project that had a long cable in it, and I looked at the project and I thought to myself, you're not going to knit this. You're not going to knit this for a couple of reasons, and that was my ebony cardigan, which I was knitting out of some absolutely stunning yarn from the Travel Knitter in the English Damson colourway, which is this beautiful plummy burgundy. And this is actually a baby camel silk. there isn't any alpaca in this. I don't know where the alpaca came from, but this is baby camel and silk blend, and it is beautiful. I purchased 3 skeins of this yarn back at Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, and it was really my star purchase of Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I think it's so beautiful and I loved knitting with it, but the project that I was working on, the ebony cardigan, just wasn't speaking to me. For one, I was just frustrated with the way that it was turning out as a garment in general. It wasn't exciting me and I wasn't wanting to knit with it. I wasn't kind of drawn to it in terms of wanting to pick it up and knit on it, however much the yarn was beautiful to work with. The other reason that I was cross with myself about this project, and I'd been thinking about ripping it back anyway, is that I hadn't alternated the skeins when I was knitting this cardigan. And as a solid 1 colour cardigan, there was a very, very clear change in colour when I had moved from my first skein of yarn to the second skein. There was like a line across the back of the knitting, and I just knew that I was like, it's not a big deal, it's fine, and I was, you know, the lady doth protest too much, methinks. I was saying, oh, it's gonna be fine, I'm not even gonna notice. When I block it, it'll bleed a little bit and it'll cover up the line, but no, every time I looked at it, it was starting to really get on my nerves that I could see this very, very clear line of change of yarn. So it got frogged. But I'm telling you about this now because I already know exactly what project I'm going to use this yarn for. And it was actually inspired as well by Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which is kind of funny because I purchased this yarn there because I saw so many people wearing this pattern at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I've wanted to cast one on since then, but I just haven't had the right yarn in my stash. And that is the Breathing Space sweater by Vera Valimaki. I love this pattern, and like I said, so many people were wearing it in Edinburgh and it looked so beautiful that I at once knew that this yarn was destined to be a breathing space. Now, for those of you who know the pattern, you'll know that it's actually a 2-colour design. You need 3 skeins of 1 colour and 2 skeins of another colour to do the kind of medium-sized sweater, which is the size that I would go for. So I already had the 3 skeins of the English Damson colourway, and I decided to take a quick look at the Travel Knitter website, because why wouldn't you? Because I thought I could find something to go with this out of my stash, but it's such a specific blend of yarn, that baby camel and silk. And Larissa of the Travel Knitter, her palette is so unique to her and so special that I wanted to get something that would really, really work with this. And I thought, well, what better way than to just purchase something from her again for the other 2 skeins. And I'm very, very happy that I did, because I actually picked up 2 skeins of a stunning colour that I'm really, really happy with, and that is this. This is Puddled Iron, which is kind of a grey blue blend, and it is beautiful. This is also on the Tanami 4-ply, so the baby camel silk, which is 50-50 blend. It's so pretty, and I just thought these 2 together, oh, just be still my beating heart. I really wanted kind of a subtle striping, and I think that these will just look beautiful together. I'm so excited to get this cast on. It's going to be a while before I cast on this project, just because I have so many other things on the needles at the moment, but also this skein of yarn I'd already caked up, but the other cakes are still pretty crinkly, so I want to reskein those and give them a little wash so that they relax back into their kind of yarny shape rather than being too kind of stretched out and everything, and I'll recake those. But I can definitely see this project being one of the things that I cast on once I've got rid of some of the other projects on my needles. It will be really nice to have a fingering weight sweater on my needles in contrast to all of the DK weight, worsted weight garments that I have. And although the Breathing Space is not on my Make 9 list, I do not have to be a complete prisoner to it, and I'm just, oh, I'm so happy with how these look. Like, I couldn't recommend this yarn more highly, because even as I was frogging it back, it still felt dreamy and soft and smooth, and it was actually probably because of the silk content, so easy to rip back because it just melted out of the project like butter. It was incredible. But yes, very, very excited to have 2 new skeins of Travel Knitter join my little stash family. And I've got a feeling this is probably some of the last yarn that will be entering the stash for a little while, because I'm very much focused on getting things out of the stash rather than adding to it. But what a lovely thing to be joining my stash family. Yay, Travel Knitter yarn. So I do actually have some sewing to talk about this week as well. I feel like I've started this year really successfully without sounding like too much of a braggart. I think that things are going well so far, and fingers crossed I'm able to continue on this trajectory, because everything's just been great so far and I've been very inspired. So I hope it continues. But the beady-eyed amongst you might have noticed that I am actually wearing more than just a shop bought t-shirt today. I'm also wearing some little straps which are connected to a dress which I finished this week. This is a project that I had wanted to finish before Christmas because I intended it to be part of my Christmas outfit. But then I realised that I was, as always, setting myself a goal that would be ridiculous to achieve, and I decided to really chill out and not stress myself in terms of my Christmas makes. Having knit an entirely new Christmas sweater for Christmas, it felt enough. I wasn't beating myself up too much that I hadn't finished this dress, but it's now finished! I'm going to hop up so that you can see it properly. This is my Cleo dress. Isn't it adorable? So this is the Cleo dress by Tilly and the Buttons. It's a little pinafore dress. I made it in the shorter length. There are 2 lengths included in the pattern, and I went for the mini skirt length. I have made one of these previously, but this version I did in denim, and I top stitched all of it, and I am in love with it. I really wanted something a little bit more classic and neutral. It's not, I mean, it's not really neutral because it's a pinafore dress and that's a very kind of specific style, but I wanted something that wasn't madly patterned or over the top. I do have a lot of fabric in my stash that I have earmarked for Cleo dresses, 2 in particular. One is a needle cord that's covered in stars, the other is a brushed cotton that's covered in massive flowers. So I wanted a pinafore dress that could go with slightly more over the top blouses and jumpers and just work with more items that are currently in my wardrobe and also things that I'm intending to add to my wardrobe in the near future. And I love how this turned out. This fabric actually has been in my stash for a long time. It was offcuts of a different denim skirt that I made a few years ago. So yeah, I love it. I'm also particularly happy with the top stitching detail on these. I really, really like top stitching, like I was saying about planning a Rosa dress with top stitching. I think it's a really lovely detail. For those of you who aren't sure what top stitching is, let me just show you. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's this detailing. So a lot of the time when we sew garments, we want our stitching to be invisible, but top stitching is designed to be shown off. So it's visible stitching on the outside of a garment for effect, and you can see I have it on the straps here, I have it around the top of the pinafore panel, I have it down the central seams here, it's all on the pocket as well, and I just love it. I'm kind of obsessed with how the top stitching looks on this outfit. And one thing that I would say, for anyone who is interested in doing top stitching on their own garments, for you sewists out there, I cannot speak more highly about how important it is to use top stitching thread and a top stitching needle for your sewing machine if you want your top stitching to look amazing. That's why I'm now obsessed with top stitching, because of my fun Cleo dress, and I do have a lot more of these planned for the new year. Because I wear pinafore dresses all the time at work. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with my sewing. My sojo, my sewing mojo is very much present. Again, very much helped along by my Make 9 projects that I have picked. I have a couple of projects on my list for Make 9 that are either in progress or are all cut out and ready to go, but I kind of stopped. But all of them I have the fabric and the supplies for as well, in the same way that my knitting projects, the majority of those, I have the supplies ready to go as well. So it's just great to be able to look over at my fabric stash, which is just over to the left of me here, all nicely reorganized and looking fresh, and actually kind of envision what I'm going to be making with all of these fabrics. It's really, really inspiring. I keep mentioning my Make 9 hashtags, and you can check out the details of what I picked for my Make 9 project on my Instagram. You can find me as Miss Lavelli on Instagram, as I mentioned earlier, but I am going to be making a couple of videos going into more detail about those. Those should be coming hopefully next week, fingers crossed, if I can get my act together and get the editing done for them. But yes, I am so excited about Make 9. It's just been a real inspiration. Maybe some of you are taking part as well. I'd really, really love to hear about it if you are. So yeah, guys, that is everything from the podcast this week. It's been a really successful week. I'm feeling happy and satisfied and in a really good place, and generally just inspired to create in all aspects of my life, be it knitting, sewing, or thinking about new content and videos for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I forgot to say it earlier, but thank you for coming by. If you're a long-term viewer, I so appreciate all of your love and your support. You guys are amazing. If this was your first time watching, thank you for sticking with me. It's been really, really lovely to share a little bit of crafty time with you today. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give me a thumbs up, and hit subscribe if you want to be kept up to date as to when there are new videos on the channel. Things like that do really, really help in terms of promoting the channel, and getting more people along with us, being able to reach more people with the crafty message of life, which is always lovely. And I'm just always really happy to have more people join our weird and wonderful creative family. So yay! For now, I am going to sign off. I hope you all have an amazing week filled with all the things that make you happy. I'm probably going to go off and listen to The Greatest Showman soundtrack, which I've been pretty much playing on a loop since I watched it on Boxing Day. But from me to you, have an incredible week. I love you all very, very dearly, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye!